Hello and welcome. This is Fireworks. Biosafety issues with regards to the controversies thrown up by the genetically modified organisms have thrown up a lot of controversies. On Fireworks today, we attempt a review of those controversies with a view especially to educating the public. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Take a close view of my guest today and we'll be back. Thank you for staying tuned to Fireworks. Today, my guest is the Director General of the Nigeria Biosafety Management Agency, Dr. Rufus Ebegba.
You're right.
Okay.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Yes, thank you very much for your time, sir. And thank you especially for holding on. Let's start with the functions of the Nigeria Biosafety Management Agency. Let Nigerians get to know what your the key functions of your agency is.
The National Biosafety Management Agency was an agency established in 2015 with the main purpose of ensuring that the practice of modern biotechnology, which can lead to the production of genetically modified organisms, do not have any adverse impact on the environment and human health, and as well as the products which are genetically modified do not also have any negative impact on human health on the environment. And when you are looking at it from the point of environment, you ensure that the practice of modern biotechnology and the genetically modified organisms themselves do not pose any adverse impact that it can impact on the conservation and sustainable use of biological diversity, taking into account risks to human health. So in essence, is to ensure safety to human health and to the environment in the area of modern biotechnology and genetically modified organisms. So
essentially, you're supposed to regulate the activities
of modern biotechnology sector.
Companies practicing in that sector.
We have a lot of research institutes. We also have firms that are also producing genetically
modified organisms. Yeah. So what are the issues that the scientists, specifically Mother Earth, non-governmental organization, what are the reservations they have about the NBMA?
Well, they have raised the issues of that the National Biosafety Management Agency Act is very permissive. They have also said that the Act should be repealed, and quite a lot of things. I think they are also arguing from the point that genetically modified organisms can be harmful to the environment and to human health. But with these issues they have been talking about, we have research institutes in Nigeria, we have scientists in Nigeria, and the point that they are looking at from the point that these products will be coming to this country without recognizing the fact that we have institutions in Nigeria that are legally backed to carry out such activities to produce genetically modified organisms. And when you talk about a law is permissive, the law is not established to prevent GMOs. The law is established to ensure safety in that sector. You have about 15 agricultural research institutes in this country. You have universities. You have 11 colleges of education, colleges of agriculture. We also have private concern that will be dwelling on this sector. Then you have a full-fledged National Biotechnology Development Agency. Agric policy promotes use of biotechnology. You also have a biotechnology policy to drive this sector. So when people argue from this point, they must understand too that Nigeria is not in isolation of the international community, where Nigeria is an active member.
So aren't GMOs harmful to the human body? That's the key issue now.
Yes. The key issue, whether GMOs are harmful to human body, there is nothing in this world that does not have potential to cause harm. Even the common salt you use for cooking, take a spoonful of it, you will know what that could cost you. Why we have the National Biosafety Management Agency to ensure that GMOs that are harmful will never be produced, and that is why we are there to ensure that Nigerians are protected. So
is there any GMO that can be produced that will never have serious side effects on the human body?
Before any genetically modified organism that is produced is released for other consumption, for planting or for processing, risk assessment is carried out to ensure that anyone that is found to have any deleterious effect, if it's consumed or released into the environment, will never come into existence. That is the essence of biosafety, to ensure to prevent and also to minimize and to manage if there are risks that may likely result. Risk management may be applied.
But in other parts of the country, of the world rather, GMOs are frowned at. They're not even allowed.
You see, the issue of GMO is not about the number. It's not a democratic process. It is not about a number. It's not a democracy. It is not a number of numerical people who accept or not. It's a scientific, verifiable evidence we are looking at. It is not based on speculation, and it's neither is it based on assumption that whether this country embraces it or not. Those countries they are talking about, they should go and look at them in-depthly. Some of them don't want to grow GMOs, but they consume massively genetically modified organisms. My statement should not be looked at from the point that I'm campaigning for it.
They don't want to grow GMOs, but they consume.
They consume.
So how does the GMOs that they consume, how do those GMOs find their ways into their countries?
Some of these countries import about 16 billion worth of GMOs annually.
Can you prove that those importations went through due process?
Of course. Those countries, advanced countries that do not really allow anything to enter their country without verification. Can
you prove? That's it.
Look, there are statistics that are very, very much available. I wouldn't want you to ask a question.
Can you give us evidence?
The evidence is very clear.
Because if they don't allow the growing
let me refer
of GMOs.
Let me refer to Europe.
Definitely, they will not. They will frown at.
Go to the Europe.
They will frown at the importation of GMO-based foods.
What I'm trying to tell you, some of them don't want to grow it, but they want to consume it. And you will also agree with me that why they don't want to grow this is not, it's not because they don't want it, but there's a trade war and economic, interest in these areas. So I don't want to go into such things, but all I want you to know is that my agency is to ensure safety in the Nigerian context. But if you are to look beyond the Nigerian context, there are ample evidences. And again, we are talking about the safety. As I said, Nigeria is not in isolation of the international community.
Dr. Ebegba, on Argentinian television, a broadcaster was interviewing a Monsanto official, and the broadcaster asked the Monsanto official to drink glyphosate, which is used for GMOs. And the man blatantly turned it down when he was placed under pressure.
Let me tell you one thing.
The broadcaster had glyphosate right there in his office, and he asked the Monsanto official to consume a glass of glyphosate, and he turned it down. Let
me tell you one thing. Glyphosate is not genetically modified. It has been used over the years by farmers as a herbicide, as a chemical for herbicide. So when nobody say, go and drink, well, if you're asked to drink a cup of common salt, will you drink it? If you're asked to drink even a fertilizer, will you drink it? Is it not being used? Listen, when we look at
those pesticides,
let me tell you,
those pesticides, from what I gather,
potential,
when they are applied to food crops, they're supposed to kill the weeds, but then the food crops and the weeds die, which is a problem for the farmers.
No,
and then the Monsanto companies developed another species of corn, let's say for example now, which is resistant to the chemicals. And that's altering the biodiversity circle.
Let me tell you one thing. The commercialization of GMOs started in 1996.
No, I want you to react to this.
I'm reacting to that.
To this example, this illustration.
Let me react to it. The commercialization of GMOs started in 1996. And before that, 1996, I was an undergraduate. And I know as an agriculturist then, agri student, there was selective herbicide and also the herbicide that kills without selection, non-selective herbicide. Those selective herbicides is the same theory that is being used to develop what you have today, selective herbicide-tolerant crops. Once it is tolerant to it, it has been developed that it does not have ability to destroy that particular crop. And let me also tell you, these crops, risk assessment is carried out, and this is a long process.
But when insects eat those crops that have been altered, the insects die, and that alters a biodiversity circle. Isn't that true or not scientifically?
Let me also tell you, those insects do not have the same biological system with humans, neither with animals. And apart from that, these insects that are being affected, they are specific insects. Once you genetically modify organism that is insect resistant, it must not affect any other insect apart that particular type of insect. And presently, we have some of them that have been on the field since 2009. We have a genetically modified cowpea that has been at the confined field trial of the Institute of Agricultural Research in Zaria since 2009 up to date. and we have been monitoring them. We granted an approval for the Institute of Agricultural Research in Zaria. So when people talk about other companies, I don't want to mention that company, they should look at the Nigeria context. What are we doing in this country? What are the research institutes in Nigeria doing in this country? And another thing they also must also understand that when you are talking about genetically modified organisms, the regulation, it does not only end with the risk assessment alone. We also look at the socio-economic impact on the people, the Nigerian farmer, the Nigerian economy. So we'll go beyond what people are thinking. The most important thing is that people should seek for information. When people refuse to come to the agency and they are working with international partners with intent to really discredit the regulatory system in the country, and not only that, to work against the country, as far as I'm concerned, this is an international conspiracy, which I think people must love their country beyond their personal interests.
So what's the key point from what you're saying now about research institutes coming up with other research approaches that will make GMOs safe? What's the key point? What
I'm telling you, save science and technology are drivers of change. And Nigeria must use science and technology, safe one, to drive the economy. We are talking about diversification of the economy. Once these products are confirmed safe, they should trust their country, they should trust the judgment of the agencies, rather than basing their judgment on verifiable
So have there been any
evidence.
research studies domiciled in Nigeria that have come up with results to prove that some GMOs are safe?
Of course, and let me also tell you.
So tell us
the National Biosafety Management
Agency
Agency also has a gem detection analysis lab. This lab has some of the best equipment you can talk about anywhere in the world. And what we do is that before any genetically modified, there's what's called substantial equivalence. You analyze the gene content of that genetically modified organism in line with non-genetically modified organisms, and you look at it. Are there changes that are dramatic that can cause any toxin within the organism? If there are no changes, what are you looking for? What else do you want to look for? Let me tell you, this sector is not regulated by imagination or by religion. It's not. It is verifiable scientific evidence we are talking about.
You have not told me about any result of studies that have come out to prove, domiciled in Nigeria, that have come out to prove that GMOs are safe.
All I want to tell you is that genetically modified organisms, even within the Nigerian context, there is no one that has been released officially for consumption. What we are doing presently is experimental trials on the field. And these experimental trials, the processes that are going on, they are also collecting safety data. They are going to do food nutritional analysis to find out whether they are safe or not. And apart from that, the history of the material that is being used for the modification, we also look at them to make sure whether these products have been harmful in the past or not.
While we're waiting for those studies, this is a research result from the Organic Lifestyle magazine, and the organization speaking using that platform is Doctors Against GMOs. The evidence is mounting, and GMOs are a danger to health. Long-term studies, we're waiting your own studies, but their own long-term studies have revealed organ damage, cancer, and reproductive damage in second and third generation animal studies. How would you react to this?
There was a research recently by one scientist, and this research has been withdrawn from the journal, and that is what they are quoting. Let me also see, I said Nigeria is not working in isolation of the international community. The World Health Organization, the Food and Agriculture Organization, their position on GMOs is very, very clear. The questions you're asking me tend to make me feel as if I'm promoting GMOs. Let it be clear, I'm talking on air. I'm not promoting GMOs, but I have enough knowledge to regulate this sector to be able to give Nigerians the fact and the truth about the sector, and that is what I'm here. I'm to regulate the sector. I wouldn't want to be lured into a situation where I'll argue as if I'm protecting the technology. I'm not here to protect it. All we know is that any GMO that is not safe will not be allowed into the Nigerian environment, nor the Nigerian market.
Well, Nigerians who have information will wonder why the National Assembly passed the NBMA Act in the first place. We'll talk about why or if the NBMA is promoting GMOs or not. But suffice it to say that Russia has banned the cultivation, breeding of GMOs. You're watching Fireworks. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying tuned to Fireworks. If you've been following our discourse in the last half hour, we've been talking with the Director General of the Nigeria Biosafety Management Agency, Dr. Rufus Ebegba. And we've been looking at some of the controversies surrounding genetically modified organisms. The issue of it, GMOs being banned in other countries, which is where we're taking off from now. And Dr. Ebegba wants to talk about the ban in other countries.
We are talking about the existence of the National Biosafety Management Agency, that the act ought not to have been in existence. So let me go to that first before I talk about the ban on other countries. When you are talking about ban on other countries, Nigeria is not other countries. Nigeria has enough scientists and evidence-based materials to ensure that what we need is what we produce. We must not necessarily import genetically modified organisms. There are a lot of challenges in agricultural sector that our scientists have ability to address. And one other thing again, GMOs must not even come into the market in the first place. Why we are having GMOs? Because some of them have, these crops or other organisms have faced challenges that have not been resolved using conventional methods. And that is why you have GMOs to solve specific problems. But let me now talk about the issue of the NBMA Act itself. The National Biosafety Management Agency Act did not just wake up and was passed overnight, because some people have been drawing the attention that it was passed by the twilight of the former administration. In 2011, this act was passed initially by the 6th Assembly, also passed by the 7th Assembly, two different legislators. And this process of developing the act then was known as a bill. Started from 2002, what was a national committee was established to ensure that there was a biosafety framework for this country, which encompasses both administrative and legal framework. And in that regard, the committee went around the 6 geopolitical zones of this country to seek Nigerians' opinion. And apart from that, some of the people who are today saying they don't want this act, we also party to it. If you come to my office, I will show you evidences of meetings and workshops, and even the papers they presented. And during the public hearing during the 6th, where it was finally passed, some of these people said that this is one of the best laws that Nigeria will ever have. Why are they not changing their own minds if they don't have vested interest? And again, the issue of I said the 6th and the 7th Assembly passed it. Why it was not signed in 2011 was because that was a transition period. It was finally passed on the 1st of June. Already the presidential election has already taken place. And when it was signed, what was passed by the National Assembly, the president had a lot of bills, and that time he could not sign it, so it became time-barred. Then in March 2015, it went back to the National Assembly again, following public hearing, public process, and also seeking Nigerians' input into it. There was a public hearing in 2014. So in 2015, in March, the two houses finally passed the act.
Now that you've clarified provisions of the act, if I get your explanation about the functions of the NBMA correctly, it is that you're supposed to be an umpire to regulate the activities, unbiased umpire. But in the last few minutes that we've been talking, you have talked more about the need for research to carry out studies that would result in the production of safe GMOs. But you have not talked about the dangers of GMOs, which is the concern of scientists the world over, not just in Nigeria.
Yes, let me tell you. Why we have the NBMA is to avoid the dangers, which, let me just enumerate some of the fears. The issue of impact on the environment. Will the GMO become dominant and now displace the existing organisms that are related to them? Will they become superorganisms? And so on and so forth. Then you now look at the issue of safety. Will it become allergic to, will it cause allergy when they are consumed? Will they become toxin when they are consumed? Then you also go to the issue of socio-economic concern. Will it become very expensive that beyond the reach of the farmer? Will it become a situation that will become that Nigerian trade partners will not patronize Nigeria? And I've said one thing, GMOs will be labeled for consumer choice. Nobody will be forced to eat GMOs. It's clear what is more important to you, Dr. Ebegba. What is more important to me is the safety of Nigerians in this sector. Let's make progress, Dr. Ebegba. The NBMA Act was signed in April 2015. By May 2016, correct me if I'm wrong, but my reports say that the agency had issued 3 GMO permits. 2 GM permits. 2 GMO permits between April 2015 and May 2016. The space of 1 year. Why the hurry? The agency approving only 2 only 2 applications in a year. Is that enough duty for the agency in addition to other activities? Let me say one thing. The issue of the review of application is very rigorous. People don't just assume that when you just bring in application, it is done. It's not the agency alone. There were about 11 agencies that reviewed it preliminary before the agency took decision.
Correct me if I'm wrong again, but why would a member of the board of the NBMA be the first to apply for GMO permits, teaming up with notorious biotech companies?
I would think that, I wouldn't want, but I think the use of language in this
the
case,
NBMA is supposed to be unbiased,
yes.
an arbiter,
yes.
an umpire.
Yes.
So why would a member of the board be the first to apply for a GMO permit?
Being a judge does not mean you cannot seek redress. And in that case, if you have a vested interest in a particular application, you do not involve yourself in such a case. And again, the board is not an implementing body. It's a policy direction body. And when that was made, that was taken into cognizance of the fact that those who have
a policy direction body regardless. The NBMA remains an umpire.
Of course, umpire, and the executive, the day-to-day affairs of the agency is vested.
A member of the board shouldn't, as a matter of law, as a matter of regulation, be in the business of GMO.
I did not create the law. The law was made.
So you have no concern in this regard?
What we know is that the law has given a leeway that if somebody who is interested in an application, such person must not participate in the process that leads to the approval. And the board does not approve applications.
So
does not.
A member of a board of an agency that regulates can embark in the business?
See, if you are a judge, doesn't mean you will not take your case to the court. You will not, which means you can't adjudicate on your own matter. That's what it means. There are clarities in such things. I think we should...
I'm glad the issues are coming out.
Yeah.
Here's another one, Dr. Ebegba. Now, the NBMA has recently advertised an application for GMO cassava. Now, the question is, how will that cassava be categorized as GMO such that it is either declared unsafe or there's a caveat emptor for consumers to beware?
Listen, let's not just conclude that GMOs are pathogenic. They are not pathogenic. As a regulator, I will tell Nigerians the true position. The application has been filed, has been publicized for Nigerians to take a look at it. If anybody has anything to advise the agency, they should freely say so. The law requires that, and that's why we have done so. The application is for the production of starch, for it not to break down as within a short time. It's to prevent instant breaking down of the starch from time. We are looking at this application. We are going to look at it in depthly. We have not taken a decision. If we find out that, as a matter of fact, this one is even an experimental process, it's going to be confined within a limited environment for them to ascertain the efficacy of the modification, whether it's going to be successful or not. If that is being done along the line, safety data is going to be collected and to be analyzed and to decide whether this thing can really be allowed to be used by Nigerians or not. So Nigerians need no worry about such things. The agency has enough competence, does have enough facility to really ascertain what is safe for them or not. And
you have signed an MOU with a quarantine agency.
Yeah.
Where in the world has any other biosafety regulator signed an MOU with a quarantine agency?
These are regulatory bodies. Must we copy from anywhere in the world? Those who started from other part of the world, where did they start their own from?
But you must carry out your operations in line with international best practice.
National best practice, yes. International best practice is that agencies of various countries are collaborating to effectively regulate and ensure that they can deliver their mandate to their various countries. I know in Ghana they do that and some other countries do so, but let Nigeria take its own stand, not necessarily copying from people, because those who started it started from somewhere. Why can't us start, let others copy from us? I did not only sign with the quarantine service. This is a border agency. We're also going to sign with custom. We have also signed with the Nigerian Agricultural Seed Council. We have also signed with Voice of Nigeria. We're also going to sign with Voice of Nigeria. And we're also going to sign with NAFDAC. All this is for synergy because there are going to be areas of convergence of these agencies. And I think what we are doing is the best thing for Nigerians.
Now, you said earlier that the report by Doctors Against GMOs published on the platform of the Organic Lifestyle has already been updated to suggest that certain contents of GMOs are not necessarily cancerous. But what's the name of the NGO again? Mothers of the Earth, during their protest against the NBMA recently. Now, they talked about the update on the findings from the Hague, the Monsanto Tribunal in The Hague, and that's as recent as April, by the way, 2017. They show starkly that Monsanto's activities undermine basic human rights and that victims of multinational corporations need better protective regulations. In the light of your activities in Nigeria, Dr. Ebegba, what would you say about this?
The agency will protect the interests of Nigerians. We are not going to base our decision on any applicant or any company's decision, but what is good for Nigerians is what we are going to approve for Nigerians.
We thank you very much for your honesty and for educating us and setting the record straight.
It's my pleasure to
Dr.
be here.
Dr. Rufus Ebegba.
Yes, your fireworks, I've heard a lot about your fireworks, and I can see you threw a lot of fire to me, and I also threw some back to you.
Okay.
Nice being here.
Thank you very much. That's how it's being on the program today. Of course, I hope that Nigerians, especially consumers across board, have been better educated about the issue of genetically modified organisms. As a result of this, be able to take better decisions in what you consume. Join me again same time next week when I bring you another incisive edition of the program. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Bye for now.